What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Early Edge. We are brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. As you know, our chat is always legendary, and I love to see the comments, especially the ones wishing Jen a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Jen. You are a big part of this community, both in the SportsLine Discord, on this show, and everywhere SportsLine. You're very sharp as well. So happy birthday to you. Shout out to James Rainwater, who says, I can't wait for baseball season because he wants the home run parlays. You love to hear it. I'm sure Sniper and A-Mags love to hear that too. You'll see them very soon. Let's see how we did on the recap screen. We go 4-3. Larry goes 1 for 2. Proppy hits his play. Mikey B, 2 for 2. I lose my prop. I was on a nice little prop run, came to a crashing halt there as Woody Marks really exploded yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Talkback Tuesday, which means we're fielding all of your questions, and we've got a great Tuesday cast with Meg Shoup, with Buckets, with Tom Casale, and Jeff Hochman. And Jeff, we were talking pre-show about that game last night. You were a Steelers backer. I certainly leaned to the Steelers as well. Your reaction?
My reaction is that Arthur Smith needs to be fired immediately. I mean, that was the most unimaginative offense of scheme I have ever seen. Very little motion. Run a misdirection, for crying out loud. How about some screenplays, a draw? My word. And then we get to the fourth quarter, and I guess it was Aaron Rodgers' bedtime because he turned into a major pumpkin with all those interceptions. I mean, just unbelievable. And I don't think Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith will be there next year. Just absolutely atrocious performance by the Steelers.
Tom, anytime I hear about a lack of an imagination, I think of your comment about the imagination of a tree stump. Your reaction to yesterday?
Yeah, well, a few weeks ago, I bet the Texans to make the Super Bowl only because it looked like some of these quarterbacks weren't going to be in the playoffs, right? No, Lamar was going to be 50-50, no Burrow, no Mahomes. So you have Josh Allen, but then you have some younger quarterbacks. And I thought maybe this year the defense is enough, right? A great defense might do it. But I'll say this. Their quarterback has to play a lot better moving forward because they really should have been up by 20 at halftime. And he made a lot of weird plays in the pocket, missed some open players. Now you got Nico Collins, who sounds like he suffered a pretty bad concussion last night, who I won't expect to play against the Patriots. But, I think with the way the playoffs are right now with some of these quarterbacks, these elite quarterbacks not going to be in here. We're going to see, like we saw with the Patriots and the Chargers and the Texans and the Steelers, where a great defensive performance might be enough to get you by.
Yeah. Big Cheesy in the chat says Stroud INT, check mark there. We talked about that at the end of the show. So happy some people catch that. Meg, how you doing today? Are you here with some football?
I am, of course, some early look for the divisional round. You know me, football girl, 365 days a year. We're down to 7 NFL games. So I'm sad, but I'll just tell you guys during the NFL offseason. So that helps me cope. But yeah, I'm already looking ahead to the divisional round. Got a pick for that and looking forward to it.
Absolutely love it. Buckets, I think you're here with soccer picks, but I got to give you a little bit of a pat on the back because you're among of almost 900 entrants in the Splash Sports contest. I believe, and this is you telling me this, but it has to be true because you went 5-1 over the weekend and you're inside the top 20.
I did. The only one I missed was the Jaguars plus 1.5, but I hit the other 5 there. Thought I'd go ahead and get ahead of this one. Sia, are you okay if I real quick rattle off what I'm doing for the next 4 in the divisional round?
Yes.
All right, I'm going with Patriots minus 2.5, Rams minus 3.5, 49ers TBD, and we'll do Broncos TBD as well on Splash Sports there.
Okay. I don't know you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's move on to some actual picks. Buckets, again, you are the football guru. By the way, it's Talkback Tuesday. If you have questions, whether they're NHL, college basketball, NFL, college football, soccer, PGA, this team right here can handle them. But Buckets, kick us off with the pitch.
We've got a weirdly aggressive slate this afternoon as we've got a Tuesday full of the German Bundesliga. So I've got a Bundesliga play for us as well as a cup play between Newcastle and Man City. But starting with that German play, I'm looking at Hamburg taking on Bayer Leverkusen. And we are seeing a drastic overreaction to how Bayer Leverkusen performed against a very strong Stuttgart side. Leverkusen lost 4-1 in their first match back from break. And now because of that one loss, people are acting like this team isn't a top 4 club in Germany anymore. They're playing a Hamburg side who is defensively non-existent. And you're going to give me Leverkusen over 1.5 team total at almost even money, currently sitting at minus 105. I will take that all day. And I might even sprinkle a little bit of ladder action, because this is the kind of match after that embarrassing loss, you have to bounce back immediately, because Germany does not mess around with their coaches. 1, 2, 3 bad results in a row, and you're gone. So Leverkusen need a positive result. They are still the second most effective attack in Germany, taking a Hamburg side who has conceded 27 goals already this season. Leverkusen is the better side, even on the road. I expect them to show up, and this is just frankly wrong at minus 105. For my second bet, we're going to that cup action matchup as Newcastle are hosting Manchester City. This is kind of an unstoppable force meets an immovable object type of situation. Newcastle, when playing at home, have been beyond stellar so far this season. In their last 13 home matches across all competitions, not only have they scored in every one of those home matches, but they've scored 2+ goals in all 13 of those matches. Then you've got City, who are unbeaten in their last 12. I absolutely love goals in this matchup because this is the first leg of 2. Going with both teams to score in over 2.5 goals at minus 110. Newcastle have to make something happen in this first leg, knowing they're traveling to the Etihad for the second. I'm expecting a 2-2 kind of shootout in this one, Sia.
All right, we got Dylan Barakat. He's hopping, or Baccarat. I mean, I want to say Baccarat every time. It's Barakat, I guess. Just hopped in to see. He's late. Did Buckets cover Stuttgart money line?
I did not cover Stuttgart money line. I did look at that matchup here earlier today. They are playing Eintracht Frankfurt. I do like the money line. I don't know what the odds are currently. That was a play that I gave out on the SportsLine website, just because Stuttgart are so strong at home, and Frankfurt are a team that when they play on the road, a little bit of that Newcastle syndrome. They just aren't the same club when not in front of their home fans. I'd also look at Stuttgart team total here. If 1.5 is playable, that might be one of the best plays of the day.
All right. And did you already cover this with that explanation? The Stuttgart versus Frankfurt, both teams to score and over 2.5 goals?
I think that's a great shout as well. Frankfurt a little bit dicey on the road here, but they have a good enough quality of attack to make something happen. And they just had a great 3-3 against Dortmund. I'd say just blanket bet goals on that matchup.
All right. Again, if you have questions, whether they're soccer or any other sport related, get them in the chat. Jeff, we're going to move to hockey. And I seem to recall last time you were on the show, you had a bet on this team and you cashed it. And I do want to point out, you were in the SportsLine Discord yesterday, the golf channel, and you had a play, or at least a question, but it sounded like kind of a play on Hideki Matsuyama, perhaps to win the Sony Open. Honestly, I don't hate that. I only bring that up because I'm going to give out a long shot on this show. I wanted to give out a matchup, a tournament matchup, but unfortunately across the major books, the matchups are not consistent, at least not yet. So I don't want to give out a matchup that only a few of you can take. So I'm going to give out a very, very long shot outright that I'll have on the early wedge tonight as well, but I'll have some shorter shots, matchups, finishing positions, first round leaders, all of that tonight on the early wedge at 7:00. Me, Patrick, Jason Sobel, and Eric Cohen. But Jeff, again, the Matsuyama play, I don't hate that at all, but talk to me about the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, I mean, Decky won at this venue in 2022, and I always like that when they win at the same course. On to the hockey. We're going to take the Utah Mammoth minus 114 when I put it in at SportsLine. It has climbed to minus 150. I'll give you another option on how to play it. Now, you don't get these spots very often, maybe once or twice in a season. The Maple Leafs will be playing their third game in 4 days, back-to-back at high altitude. They just won last night 4-3, defeating the Colorado Avalanche. So you know they're feeling high and mighty, right? Salt Lake City is 4,200 feet above sea level, and then we know in Colorado, it's a mile high. So Utah ranks 7th in shots against. They have a plus 118 shot differential. You look at Toronto, they sit at 29th in shots against, and they have a minus 189 shot differential. High danger shots, you know how I love this stat, certainly favors the Mammoth. The Mammoth allowed a season-high 36 shots on goal in a 3-2 overtime setback on Sunday. I think this is a great spot for the Utah Mammoth to bounce back. If you do not want to swallow all that juice, you can play the regulation line at even money. I think that's another good look. But it will be graded at minus 114 on tomorrow's recap show, hopefully with a green check mark.
All right. I am looking at some questions in the chat. And I think, Tom, you have a college basketball play later, but let me get to this one from Big Cheesy. He says, I need a Casale NCAA pick like I need air. I am eyeing the Minnesota Gophers money line. By any chance, Tom, have you already looked at that one?
I did. The spot screams Minnesota, but the problem for me is the Big Ten hasn't been following spots this year. The Big Ten's one of those conferences where the home court advantage isn't as big as it is in some of the other conferences. We've seen this for the last couple of weeks, road teams winning. I know Iowa was a popular play on Sunday. Illinois went in there and won. So it's a bad – Wisconsin just beat Michigan, right? So going on the road, the spot says Minnesota. I just think Wisconsin's the much better team, and I only want to take Minnesota as bigger home dogs than they are tonight. So I'm going to pass on that one.
All right, we're passing on that one, but we're not passing on the BetMGM hat trick jackpot. You already got a hockey pick, but how about the BetMGM hat trick jackpot? You have the chance to win your share of $10,000 in bonus bets. Just place an anytime goal score wager, and if your guy scores 3+ goals during that game, you will win a share of $10,000 in bonus bets. SportsLine picks. Let's go to two of them here. We've got Jalen Williams under 29.5 PRA. That's points, rebounds, and assists at -127. That one courtesy of Prop Bet Guy. And then Bruce Marshall coming in with USC -8.5 at -120. All right, Meg, we got to get to your football pick. I'm anxious to hear that. I believe I cheated a little bit. I believe it pertains to one Christian McCaffrey. We've got soccer questions in the chat still. I still have to give out my very much long shot, 90-1 long shot for the Sony Open. A lot to cover. Tom's pick as well right after this message from our partners.
The new era of UFC on Paramount Plus comes out swinging. The highlight machine collides with the Liverpool phenom, and the Hall of Famer returns to take on the bantamweight champion. UFC 324, Saturday, January 24th, only on Paramount Plus.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Meg Shoup, this rematch. We talked about it a little bit yesterday on the Early Edge with San Francisco going to Seattle. Different circumstances, obviously, with Seattle hosting this one as opposed to San Francisco a couple of weeks ago. Trent Williams back for this one. No George Kittle. One might see Ricky Pearsall. But your focus is not on any of those guys. It's on really the Swiss Army knife for the whole NFL, and especially the 49ers, one Christian McCaffrey.
Right. I like Christian McCaffrey over 44.5 receiving yards. And listen, he's been a receiver. He almost was the second player to, the first ever player to get 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving twice. He's done it once with a couple other. He almost did that, not quite, but he has been a Swiss Army knife. He has been a major receiving element for the 49ers, mainly because they have had a lot of injuries. Kittle's been out during the season. Pearsall's been out during the season. We do need to wait and hear on Ricky Pearsall's status, but we do unfortunately know that Kittle is out with the torn Achilles. When Kittle has been out in 6 full games this season, McCaffrey averages 68 receiving yards per game. And the 2 games that Kittle left, including this playoff game and including week 1 against Seattle, he has gone over this line. He had 73 in the game week 1 against Seattle. So especially with Trent Williams back, but they live and die by Christian McCaffrey. And if they want their season to continue, they're going to have to heavily lean on him again. Also, Seattle gives up the most receptions to running backs and the 6th most receiving yards to running backs. So you get a little data that helps support it there, but they absolutely need McCaffrey in every aspect possible. And I think they will continue to lean on him in the receiving game without George Kittle.
Can I ask you a follow-up here? There were a couple of people, Mike McClure included, that leaned, it wasn't an official pick, leaned to San Francisco plus 7.5 on the road in Seattle. Do you have a take on that? I mean, obviously I think San Francisco can get blown out, but also I think it's a division game that they can win. Any thoughts here?
We saw it in Philly, and obviously Philly is a good defense. Offense is, their offense was what ended up hurting them. But same thing here. I do believe in Darnold more than others, but the Seattle's defense is kind of what they lean on, similar to the Texans last night. But I do like 49ers to at least cover, and I do think they are live to pull off yet another upset. That's not an official play, but I definitely lean the 49ers spread here.
Buckets, I don't know if you formulated an opinion on that play, but everybody wants to know if you like the plus 7.5 for San Francisco. It doesn't have to be official.
Oh, is that what the spread's at, 7.5?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
so on Splash Sports, they just have TBD because it doesn't say what the spread is yet. And I already picked 49ers without knowing the spread. So, yeah, I'm on it.
That's going to hit. All right. Speaking of things that are going to hit, Tom, talk to me. We've got a lot of college basketball questions in the chat, which, of course, we will get to. And I know it's Talkback Tuesday, but FYI, we answer your questions on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as well. Tom, talk to me about Alabama -3.5. Tom is on mute, but I know it sounds good. Okay, go ahead.
Am I on? Oh, okay.
You're on now. Yes.
Sorry, I was coughing. This game is all about the number because it opened up Alabama -7.5, and I had no interest at that number. Then this morning I woke up and it was down to 3.5 at BetMGM, 4.5 at some other places. I would take Alabama under 5. If it's above 5, I wouldn't take it. They're a little shorthanded tonight. Latrell Wrightsell isn't going to play. But they're coming off 2 losses here, 2 SEC losses in a row. And one of the things is in the last 3 years since I've been here, I've given out Alabama games more than any other team. I feel I just have a good read on the types of teams that can beat them and the types of teams that are going to have trouble with them. And as bad as Alabama's defense is, Mississippi State's defense is just as bad. And those are the games that Alabama outscores teams in. I do think this will be a competitive game. But one of the problems for Mississippi State, and it could definitely fester tonight, is they are a terrible free throw shooting team. And you cannot leave points on the board against Alabama. We know they're going to score around 90. They've done it in pretty much every game this year. So you know you're going to have to get to that 88, 90 mark to compete with Alabama. This feels to me like a 101-92 type of Alabama win. Again, I wouldn't go up past. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I think we're going to have to wait and get this one. Mississippi State's playing at home, but I do like the fact that Nate Oates slammed his team after those 2 losses. A couple of weeks ago, St. John's, the same thing happened. They lost at home to Providence, and then they came back on the road and defeated Xavier easily. I think this is a spot where Alabama rebounds. They have the right opponent, so lay 4.5 or less. I like the Tide.
All right, we like the Tide in that one. We've got a lot of college basketball questions, and among other things. Let me give out my golf pick before we get to the question. So again, the golf picks across the major books, including BetMGM, they weren't super consistent. The matchups weren't consistent. I'd rather wait to give out a finishing position tonight when after we get tee times, we get a better read on the weather, things of that nature. So I'm going to give out a long shot. Seamus Power at anywhere. I mean, some books have this as low as like 55-1, but BetMGM and DraftKings both have it at 90-1. He's a guy that in a tournament like this, where I think there's a lot of variance just because it's an easier course, that might sound like the opposite of a tournament that has a lot of variance. But the reality is an easier course is going to, especially a course that doesn't require a lot of length, is going to bring a lot of players in play. Seamus Power actually has finished T3 here. It was a few years ago, finished T3 at the Sony. But he's been pretty bad here overall in terms of the other times he's played here. And he's lost on approach in a lot of those tournaments. And that's really key here. You want to be really good on approach. But the reason I kind of like Seamus Power is because when we look at the fall swing, which I'm not putting too much weight on, except for the fact that Seamus Power's approach play has started to click a little bit. And I wonder if he found something on approach that he can apply at the Sony Open. His putter has been lights out, with a couple of small exceptions, has been lights out. He's done it here before with the T3. And although he's been really bad on approach here again, I think he may have found something. And I'm willing to find out at 90-1. You could probably find this somewhere at 100-1 or greater at some of the other smaller books, perhaps. But Seamus Power is a guy that I think in DFS, in the outright market, maybe even as a long shot top 10 or top 20, I think is a pretty decent play. So give me Seamus Power to win this thing at 90-1. Look for some other markets. We'll talk about it more on the early wedge tonight. Let's get to some questions. Oh my gosh, Zach Kasenki, I didn't even realize this. At 10:03, he said, Sia, sneak peek for Sony. What do you think about Seamus Power? Okay, well, that's what I think about it. I didn't realize that question was in the chat. Buckets, do you ever look at footy futures, Arsenal plus 400 to win the FA Cup?
We actually talked about the futures for this competition on Galazzo this morning, and the crowd favorites by everyone in the studio was either Arsenal or Manchester City. There was some talk on Aston Villa as well, but seeing as they drew Newcastle in the next round, it's kind of a team you probably want to stay off of for the time being. Arsenal would have to be my favorite at plus 400. That's still within the playable future realm for me, so I think it's a great shout.
Tom, Zach Kasenki wants to know if you can touch on Iowa State at Kansas. He thinks we should bet the farm on Iowa State and that Kansas is not deep at all.
Yeah, I wanted like heck to bet Kansas today. You see 4.5 Kansas at home, but they just don't have the team. I'm going to say this. I think this is Bill Self's last year as a head coach. It's just not working with this new age of college basketball. They don't have any players. They have like 2 or 3. I mean, this is Kansas, and they have a couple of guys. I just can't bet. Iowa State is so much better than them across the board. It just doesn't make sense. I would only be betting this to say I got Kansas at home. That's the only angle here to take the points because they're just not a very good basketball team.
Yeah, it looks like they're getting around 3.5 points at home against Iowa State. Jeff Hochman, Rick Funcannon wants to know, do you like any NFL plays for this weekend already here on a Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm leaning toward the Rams. Sorry, Ben. I really want a -3. I don't think it's going to get there because it is trending in the other direction. My predictive model has the Rams with advantages in 11 of 15 predictive metrics that my model uses. Sack differential, net yards per play, point differential. I'm leaning to the Rams right now. Not an official pick, but yeah, I kind of like the Rams in that one.
Ben, you're always welcome to jump on the show and give the Chicago argument if you feel so inclined. Achilles TPS says, I got a tennis bet for the chat today. Ben Shelton versus Komisana, both players to win a set. Yes is plus 152. Buckets, any thoughts on Roma versus Torino?
If it's okay with you, I'll just rattle through all the soccer questions back to back here. Absolutely love Roma on the money line. A little out of my play zone at -160. Gasparini really wants a trophy for this club, and this would be their 10th Coppa Italia title if they manage to run through the rest of this competition. Go ahead and take their money line with like under 4.5 to get that to even money. Next question. We've got Cleveland Clown said, how high would you ladder that team total for Leverkusen? I would go up to 2.5 team total or plus or over 1.5 team total in the first half. That's plus 400 right now. I think that's a fun way to take it if you don't want to have to play the full match. And then Giuseppe Maricino said, buckets, what do we like more? Hamburg, Leverkusen, both teams to score in over 2.5, or Dortmund to score in both halves at -115? Frankly, I like both. If I had to pick only one of them, I'm going with that both teams to score in over 2.5, though, in the Leverkusen match.
All right. Tom, Jen, the birthday girl, wants to know if the 3.5 is not available, how about Alabama team total over 89.5?
Yeah, well, happy birthday, first of all. And yeah, listen, like I said, Mississippi State, when you're looking at teams in the SEC that can play Bama, their only chance here is to score in the 90s with them because they're not going to stop them. Their defenses rate around the same, which are both bad. The difference is Alabama has the #1 offense in college basketball. So let me put it this way. If that doesn't go over, I'm going to be worried about my pick.
Fair enough. Baylor money line from Dylan. Okay, so he clarified how to pronounce his last name. I'm going to try to do it right. Barakat. I hope I got that right. Baylor money line, Tom?
Yeah, well, I was on Baylor Saturday, and they got their head smashed into the ground by Houston. And in my write-up, I actually started with, I hate this Baylor team. But I ended up taking the 4.5 anyway. I'm going to stick with my original thinking. I hate this Baylor team. Scott Drew's another coach. It's not happening. Listen, when you're looking at college football and college basketball now, you got to reset your brain. Some of these coaches, it's not working for them with the transfer portal and the NIL. It's just not happening. And Baylor's one of those teams. Look at Baylor. How many good players do they have? What, 2, 3? I mean, where's the good play? This team used to be a national championship contender. So I don't know. Oklahoma State's a lot better than people projected. They're coming back home after a loss. I lean the other way here. I know Baylor's been a popular pick with the early steam on that game, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma State.
I mean, Baylor had a really good player last year and a couple of good players, and they couldn't do anything with it. Beyond, I mean, VJ Edgecombe was on that team last year, and they really weren't much of a factor. Tom, let's get to at least one more college basketball question. Do we like Providence money line? Let's see. Home against Villanova feels like a good spot.
Yeah, it does feel like a good spot. My only concern here is Villanova shoots so many threes and Providence cannot guard the perimeter. So what you're going to see, to me is a live bet situation. See if those Villanova threes are falling in the first few minutes. If they're not, then I think Providence is going to win at home. But if you start seeing those threes fall because of the way they guard the perimeter, then I would lay off Providence.
All right, Taj says Seton Hall, UConn over 131.5 at -110. And Big Cheesy says Julian Champagne over 18.5 points and rebounds -125. That's the one on San Antonio, not Washington. Eric David wants to know, Meg, do we like any? You are the anytime touchdown. I don't know what anytime touchdown queen. What do we need a name? I don't know what it is.
We do need a name for that. I do love my anytime touchdown queen. Sounds great to me. But I missed on 2 on Saturday, but I did hit a plus 280 Dalton Kincaid on Sunday. So that kind of brought my confidence back up. Nice. Early looks are kind of, no plus money bangers yet. I'm going to dive deeper at that. I almost wrote up Christian McCaffrey just because he has 19 or 20 touchdowns on the year, and we're getting him at -115. I believe Josh Allen -105 is going to have to put the Superman cape on again if he wants to move past the Broncos. So those are my 2 early leans. No exciting plus money bangers yet, but I'm sure I will get there and check out SportsLine later in the week. I'm sure I'll have a couple anytime touchdowns.
Jeff Hochman, go ahead.
Yeah, Aaron Bailey was wondering about the Carolina at St. Louis Blues matchup. He's a season ticket holder for the St. Louis Blues. Aaron, I like Carolina in that game. They continue to lead the league in shot differential right behind Colorado, and St. Louis, as you probably know, has been up and down all season. So I think Carolina is the look at -160, 165, right around there.
2 things here. Charbonnet, anytime touchdown, says Big Cheesy. And Eric David says, I'll work on a name for Meg. My history is pretty good, right, Counselor? So Eric David famously came up with Counselor of Cash. We farmed out when I first joined the Early Edge many years ago. We farmed, hey, we got to come up with a name for Sia. And Eric David was ready in the chat with Counselor of Cash, and that has certainly stuck. It's a great one. Anytime touchdown, Swift, Bears will run the ball, says Sox Nation.
I like that too.
Yeah. By the way, I was on HQ yesterday. I mean, I lost my prop that I came to this show with, so I can't celebrate too much. But I managed to work in, and I've never done this before. I said last touchdown score, either the Texans defense or the Steelers defense at 45 or 55 to 1. And there it went with the Houston last touchdown at what would have been the 45 to 1 number. So I don't know that anybody tailed that, but it was fun to actually articulate that and have it come in. All right. Any other hand up before we get to the recap screen? Were there any other questions in the chat that I did not get to? Go ahead, Jeff.
No questions. I just want to wish Jen a very happy birthday. She's very active in the Discord, super sharp, and I know a lot of our followers appreciate her advice.
100% true. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I do want to mention this. Jeff, the pick you gave out, obviously it escalated to some pretty steep juice, and that's why you gave alternative bets to bet that game. But correct me if I'm wrong, and I haven't looked. You put this in SportsLine, right?
I put it in SportsLine. Yesterday I was such a nerd. I kept hitting reload, waiting for the lines to come out. So right when it came out, it was -114, and then a half hour later, 128, -140, and then I wake up this morning, -150, and now it's -162. But I do like the regulation line because I don't think this game is going to overtime with the results that we saw yesterday.
And I ask that to say this. I mean, picks like this that Tom makes, or Jeff or Meg or Buckets. I know some of yours don't translate to the SportsLine app, which is why you come to the show or you have it in article form. But those lines can change. Prop stars, name anybody at SportsLine. A lot of times these lines shift quite a bit. And if you're not a SportsLine member, it's great that you watch this show. We really appreciate it. But sometimes you're going to get the better number when we put the bet in, which in Jeff's case was last night, where you could have got the -114. So if you want to join SportsLine, if one of your friends wants to join SportsLine to take advantage of stuff like that, and to get into the SportsLine Discord to listen to what Jen has to say, and Jeff Stenberg and Eric David and so many other, Katie Taylor, who is in the chat right now, it's really easy. Go to sportsline.com/join, type in the promo code winners. You get 60% off the annual plan. Again, sportsline.com/join, promo code winners. It gets you the SportsLine Discord as well. Jeff, you had some follow-up.
Yeah, I would just follow up with what you said. You get the best line, and that's the key to winning in sports betting long term. I post all my picks in the Discord and right at SportsLine, and you can turn on notifications, I believe, right, Sia? And
yes,
the plays go out immediately, and you gotta take advantage of CLV. It's just imperative if you want to win long term.
Absolutely true. And it's really, the app makes it really easy, especially if you're doing it on your phone. You look at somebody's pick, and I think it's in the upper right-hand corner. I think there's like a follow button, and you just press that. And so now you're going to get notifications when, let's say, for example, you follow Jeff Hochman. He makes a pick, immediately it pops on your phone. I mean, it's really
Easy.
That simple. Any closing thoughts, anybody, before we get to the recap screen? Nothing. Buckets, anything?
Nope.
I'm just waiting for more football picks because, like, you're that dude right now.
I'm good.
Any live bets?
Is there live NFL right now?
No.
No, live soccer.
Oh, yeah, but it's NFL. It's all NFL for Buckets. Meg, go ahead.
One thing, as I was, looking at the Elite Eight that are left here for NFL, the one matchup, and Ben behind the scenes, I'm rooting for your Bears, but I do think if the Patriots and Rams matched up in the Super Bowl, that would be pretty fun because there's been so much MVP conversation. Ooh. And if May versus Stafford, kind of young versus old, I do think that would be a fun matchup to watch. That's the one I think is actually most likely to, and it is the kind of the one I would like to see right now. But hey, Bears are scrappy. I like them. Don't count them out either.
Name the finalists is a market, where you can get a pretty decent number on, let's say, those two. I mean, they are kind of the favorite-ish, although, obviously Denver, more of a favorite, Seattle, more of a favorite, but you know what I mean? Texans are going to be scary for New England next. I mean, that is a scary, scary defense. We'll close here. Jen says, if you show up in the Discord at the right time, you can watch Jeff and RJ talk through how they break down games. It's awesome. It really is awesome. And I think you're referring to the NFL tab. Of course, Jeff, you're on other tabs, other channels as well, often, including the golf channel yesterday. But Tom, you as well. But what Jen is referencing is pretty awesome. Tom, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, for me, I think the Discord is the most valuable part of the membership. Listen, sometimes my picks stink, like Baylor, right? But I think a lot of us help people in games that we're not even picking. And, the messages that I get personally are from people who say, thanks for your opinion on this, or thanks for helping me think through this. So just as a bettor, if you are interested in more than just picks, I think the Discord is the most valuable thing that we offer.
Honestly, and that's what we try to do on these shows to some degree as well. The prop show, this show, so many shows. We like to give you the analysis and talk through it so you can make the wise choice that you want to make with respect to the picks themselves. But Discord is a great place for that. And this is a great place for Eric David to come up with names. Market Mover Meg, says Eric David. He's still workshopping it, but that's one of the candidates. Let's get to the recap screen and get everybody out of here. Sony long shot, Seamus Power, 90-1. Again, that's a long shot pick. I'll have probably a total of 4 or 5 outrights on the early wedge tonight at 7 o'clock. Do not miss it. We've got a lot of picks that we're going to have across a lot of different markets. Hamburg versus Leverkusen. Leverkusen over 1.5 team total, -105. And Newcastle versus Manchester City, both teams to score, plus over 2.5 goals, -115. That from NFL guru John Eimer. Tom Casale likes Alabama, -3.5, -115. And if you didn't watch the entire show, he gave out a lot of opinions with a lot of the questions that you had in the chat on other college basketball plays. Jeff Hochman, he gave out some opinions on some NHL plays, but his official pick is Utah Mammoth, money line -114. Now that juice has gotten away, so he's giving you alternative ways to bet that one. We go to the NFL. Christian McCaffrey over 44.5 receiving yards, -115. That one, courtesy of Meg Shoup. Then we go to SportsLine picks. Jalen Williams under 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists at -127. That one courtesy of Prop Bet Guy. And then finally, Bruce Marshall in college basketball, USC -8.5 at -120. All right. Everybody's still continuing to say happy birthday, Jen. And again, happy birthday, Jen. If you have a birthday, make sure you get in the chat. You let us know because this chat will be all over it. Thank you, Buckets. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Ben, on the 1s and 2s and the 3s and the 4s and that Bears hat. I don't know if you saw it, Jeff, but he flashed the Bears hat as you were giving your anti-Bears take. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. We rest our case.